And ID. Now, stop acting tough.
I live here. What's your reasonable suspicion?
Turn around.
You're being detained.
I'm complying. State the legal basis.
Oh, wow. What's that?
That came from your pocket, and the lobby camera just caught it.
The security camera above the mailboxes was recording everything. Every move the officer made, every word spoken, every second of what would become the most expensive evidence-planting case in Philadelphia PD history. The officer had no idea that the quiet man reaching for his mail-me was a high school civics teacher who taught constitutional law to teenagers every single day and who was about to teach him a lesson he'd never forget. At exactly 4:37 p.m. on a cold February afternoon in West Philadelphia, what should have been a simple trip to check the mail turned into a federal case that would expose a pattern of falsified arrests spanning 8 years, cost the city $1.5 million, and prove that sometimes the person you're trying to frame knows exactly what you're doing. This wasn't just another story of police misconduct. This was me, a civics teacher with 24 years of experience educating students about their rights, going up against an officer who thought he could manufacture probable cause. What happened next would shock an entire community and show that security cameras catch everything. Before I continue, where in the world are you watching from? Drop your location in the comments and hit that subscribe button, because this story has twists you won't believe, and I don't want you to miss a single moment. My name is Marcus Thorne. I was 48 years old at the time and had been teaching at Liberty High School for 24 years. I taught civics, government, and constitutional law to juniors and seniors. I tried to be the kind of teacher students remember decades later, the kind who made the Constitution come alive, who could explain the Fourth Amendment with real examples, and who trained students to think critically about their rights. I held a master's degree in political science from the University of Pennsylvania. I had published articles in education journals about teaching constitutional rights to urban youth. I coached the mock trial team that had won state championships 3 years running. I ran a summer program teaching students how to interact with police safely and legally. But I wasn't just an academic. I had grown up right here in West Philly. I knew what it meant to be a black man in America. I had been stopped by police more times than I could count. Pulled over for driving in the wrong neighborhood, questioned for walking down my own street, asked for ID while sitting in my own car. Every single one of those experiences had become a teaching moment for my students. I would tell them exactly what happened, what the law said, what rights I had, and how I responded. I taught them that knowing your rights wasn't about being difficult, it was about being prepared. I lived in a 4-story apartment building in a working-class neighborhood, mostly black families, teachers, nurses, bus drivers, people who worked hard and kept to themselves. My building had 12 units, a small lobby, with mailboxes and a security camera system that the landlord had installed 2 years ago after a package theft problem. On this particular Tuesday in February, I had just gotten home from school. It was around 4:30 in the afternoon. I had stayed late for a faculty meeting about standardized testing, and I was beat. I just wanted to check my mail, make some dinner, and grade papers. I walked into my building's lobby. The space was small, maybe 10 feet by 10 feet, with mailboxes along one wall and the staircase on the other side. The security camera was mounted in the corner near the ceiling, pointed at the mailboxes and the entrance. I was alone in the lobby. I walked to my mailbox, number 4B, and started unlocking it with my key. That's when Officer Derek Vance walked in. Vance was 31 years old, white with the kind of swagger that came from 8 years of doing whatever he wanted without consequences. He had been with the Philly PD for 8 years. His record showed 43 commendations for arrests. It also showed 9 complaints for excessive force, all dismissed. 11 complaints for improper searches, all dismissed. 6 complaints for false arrest, all dismissed. Vance had a pattern. He would target people in certain neighborhoods, manufacture probable cause, make arrests that resulted in charges that got dropped later, and collect commendations for his arrest numbers. The system worked for him because the people he targeted usually didn't have the resources or knowledge to fight back effectively. Vance had been watching the building for 20 minutes. He had run the plates of cars parked outside. He had noted who entered and exited. He was looking for someone to stop someone, to search someone who might have something he could arrest them for. When I walked into the lobby alone, Vance saw an opportunity. "What are you doing here?" Vance said, his hand moving to his weapon. I looked up from my mailbox key still in my hand. My first thought was confusion. I was in my own building getting my own mail, doing nothing wrong. "I'm getting my mail, White," I said. "I live here. This building's been having a lot of problems lately. I need to see your ID." My training kicked in. Not police training, teacher training. The kind of calm, analytical thinking that comes from dealing with tense situations in classrooms for 2 decades. I assessed the situation. 1 officer, no backup visible, vague claims about problems in the building, demanding ID without legal justification. This was profiling. "I'm in my own building getting my mail. Why would I need to show ID?" "Because I'm telling you to. So stop acting tough and show me your ID." I felt a flash of anger at the condescension, but kept my voice level. The officer was trying to provoke me. I wouldn't take the bait. "Buddy, trust me, you're messing with the wrong person." The words came out calmly, but with absolute confidence. I knew exactly what my rights were. I knew this stop was illegal, and I was about to make sure this officer learned a lesson he'd never forget. Vance's expression darkened. "Oh yeah, we'll see about that. Turn around. You're being detained." I made a decision. I was going to comply physically while asserting my rights verbally. It's what I taught my students. It's what keeps you safe while protecting your legal position. "Can you tell me why I'm being detained? What's the legal basis for this stop?" Quick question for you watching. If you were in my situation, would you stay calm or would you be scared? Type your answer below. Vance didn't answer. He grabbed my arm and pulled me away from the mailbox, spinning me around to face the wall. I didn't resist. I let my body go where Vance moved it, but I kept talking. "Officer, I'm complying with your commands. I'm not resisting, but I need to know why I'm being detained. I have the right to know the legal basis for this stop." Vance pushed me against the wall and started patting me down. Aggressive, invasive, the kind of search that's meant to intimidate as much as investigate. I kept my hands visible, pressed against the wall. My phone was in my jacket pocket. My keys were still in my hand. My wallet was in my back pocket. Nothing illegal, nothing suspicious. "What's your name?" Vance demanded. "Marcus Thorne. I live in apartment 4B. I'm a teacher at Liberty High School. I was just getting my mail. You got ID in my wallet, back right pocket. You're welcome to retrieve it." Vance pulled out my wallet roughly and opened it. He looked at the driver's license. The address matched the building. The photo matched the man. Everything was legitimate. But Vance wasn't interested in legitimate. He was interested in an arrest. And now, this guy me was talking about being the wrong person to mess with. Vance wanted to show me who was in charge here. "What are you doing in this neighborhood at this time of day?" Vance asked. It was a ridiculous question, and I knew it. "I live here. This is my home. I teach at Liberty High, which is 6 blocks away. I've lived in this building for 14 years. "You seem nervous." "I'm not nervous. I'm concerned about why I'm being detained without explanation. Under Terry versus Ohio, you need reasonable suspicion of criminal activity to detain me. Can you articulate What crime you suspect me of committing? Vance's jaw tightened. People who knew the law annoyed him. They made his job harder. And this one had the audacity to warn him he was messing with the wrong person. Time to show him how wrong he was about that. I'm investigating drug activity in this area. Am I suspected of drug activity? You're in a high-crime area. Living in a high-crime area isn't probable cause for a search. The Supreme Court established that in multiple cases, including Illinois versus Wardlow, geographic location alone doesn't create reasonable suspicion. Vance pulled me away from the wall and pushed me toward the mailboxes. Keep your hands where I can see them. I complied. My hands stayed visible. My voice stayed calm, but my mind was racing. Something was very wrong here. This officer had no legal basis for this stop. He was fishing, but for what? Vance looked around the lobby. He glanced at the security camera for just a second, then looked away. He positioned himself between me and the mailboxes, his back partially to the camera. Then I saw it happen. Vance's hand went to his pocket. He pulled something out, something small, wrapped in plastic. He held it low, near his waist, trying to keep it out of my direct line of sight. Then Vance dropped it on the floor near my feet. The whole thing took maybe 3 seconds, but I saw it. Every detail. The item came from Vance's pocket. Not from me, not from the floor. From Vance's pocket. "What's this?" Vance said loudly, pointing at the floor. I looked down. A small plastic baggie. It looked like it had white powder in it, planted right there in front of me. "That's not mine," I said immediately. "That came from your pocket. I watched you drop it." Vance's hand moved to his radio. "I've got a subject in possession of suspected narcotics." I felt my heart rate spike for the first time. This was serious. This officer was planting evidence. This could destroy my career, my reputation, my life, but then I remembered something. The security camera. The camera that was mounted in the corner pointing at the mailboxes, recording everything. "Officer, I need to inform you that this lobby has a security camera. It's recording right now. It recorded you dropping that baggie from your own pocket." Vance froze just for a second, but I saw it. The moment of panic, the realization. "I don't know what you're talking about," Vance said, but his voice had changed, less confident, more defensive. "The camera is right there," I said, gesturing with my head toward the corner. "It has a clear view of everything that just happened. It will show that baggie came from your pocket, not from me. You just planted evidence on a teacher who was getting his mail." I looked him dead in the eye, my expression completely calm, almost sympathetic. "I tried to tell you, buddy, you were messing with the wrong person." Do you think the officer knew at this point he was finished? Type yes or no in the comments. Vance looked at the camera, then at me, then at the baggie on the floor. His mind was clearly racing through his options. Pick it up and leave. Continue with the arrest and hope the footage disappears. Double down and claim I was lying. Before Vance could decide, the building's front door opened. 3 people walked in, residents coming home from work. They stopped when they saw a police officer with a man against the wall. "Everything okay?" one of them asked. It was Mrs. Gable, a woman in her 50s carrying grocery bags. "This officer just planted drugs near me," I said calmly and clearly. "I was getting my mail. He detained me without cause, searched me, and then dropped a baggie from his own pocket and claimed it was mine. The security camera recorded everything." The residents looked shocked. They knew me. I had lived in the building for 14 years. I was the quiet teacher in 4B who helped kids with their homework in the lobby sometimes. "That's Mr. Thorne," one of the other residents said. "He teaches at Liberty. He's been here forever." Vance realized he had an audience now. Witnesses. People who knew the victim. People who would back up my story. "Everyone step back," Vance said. "This is police business. "This is false arrest and evidence planting," I said, "and I'm going to file a formal complaint the moment you leave. The security footage will prove everything I'm saying." Vance made his decision. He picked up the baggie from the floor and put it back in his pocket. "You're free to go," he said quickly. "I want your name and badge number," I said. "You're free to go," Vance repeated, walking toward the door. "Officer, you detained me illegally. You searched me without cause. You planted evidence. I'm a civics teacher. I know exactly what my rights are, and I know exactly what you just did. I need your identification." Vance turned at the door. His face was red. His jaw was clenched. "Officer Derek Vance, badge number 5294, he said. Then he left. The three residents who had witnessed the end of the encounter gathered around me. "Are you okay?" Mrs. Gable asked. "I'm fine, but I need all of you to write down exactly what you saw and heard. I'm going to need witness statements." They all agreed immediately. I went upstairs to my apartment. My hands were shaking now. The adrenaline was hitting me. I had just been targeted for a false arrest, a planted drug charge, something that could have destroyed everything I'd worked for. But I had something most people in my situation didn't have. Evidence. Clear, recorded evidence. I called my sister, Alicia Thorne Banks. She's a civil rights attorney. I explained everything: the illegal detention, the search, the planted baggie, the security camera. Alicia's response was immediate. "Don't touch anything. Don't talk to anyone from the police department. I'm coming over right now, and we're going to secure that footage before anything happens to it." Alicia arrived 30 minutes later with a paralegal. We went straight to the building's landlord, Mr. Russo, who lived on the first floor. We explained what happened and asked for a copy of the security footage. Mr. Russo looked horrified. "Marcus is one of my best tenants. Of course I'll give you the footage. That officer should not have done that." Mr. Russo pulled up the security system on his computer. He found the timestamp 4:37 p.m. He played it back. The footage was crystal clear, high-definition color. The audio wasn't great, but the video was perfect. It showed me entering the lobby alone, walking to my mailbox, starting to unlock it. Then Officer Derek Vance entering. The entire confrontation. My hands staying visible. Vance searching me. Vance looking at the camera briefly. Vance positioning himself, partially blocking the camera's view. Vance's hand going to his pocket. Vance pulling something out. Vance dropping it near my feet. Vance pointing at it. All of it, frame by frame. Undeniable. Alicia watched it 3 times. The paralegal took notes. Mr. Russo made 2 copies on USB drives and sent the original file to Alicia's email. "This is the clearest evidence of evidence planting I've ever seen," Alicia said. "We're filing federal charges, civil rights violation, false arrest, abuse of authority, and we're going after the Philadelphia PD for failing to supervise this officer." We filed the lawsuit 72 hours later. The complaint was 81 pages long. It included the security footage, witness statements from the 3 residents, my own statement, Derek Vance's personnel file that we obtained through discovery, and a pattern analysis showing that Vance had made 47 arrests in the previous 3 years where charges were dropped due to lack of evidence. The media got hold of the story within a week. A high school civics teacher, a cop planting drugs, security footage showing everything. It went viral. The video was broadcast on local news, then national news. Then it spread across social media. Millions of views, thousands of comments. People were outraged. The Philadelphia PD had no choice but to respond. Derek Vance was placed on administrative leave immediately. Internal Affairs opened an investigation. The district attorney announced they were reviewing every single arrest Vance had made in his 8 years on the force. The investigation took 3 months. They reviewed Vance's arrest records. They looked at his pattern of stops. They interviewed people he had arrested. They found 23 cases where people claimed Vance had planted evidence or lied about probable cause. 23 cases that had been dismissed or resulted in acquittals, but nobody had ever investigated why. The Internal Affairs report was devastating. Vance had been manufacturing arrests for years. He would stop people in certain neighborhoods, claim to smell marijuana, or see suspicious behavior, search them aggressively, and if he found nothing, sometimes he would plant something small, a baggie, a pill just enough to make an arrest. Most of the victims never fought back because they didn't have resources. They took plea deals to avoid trial. They accepted records they didn't deserve. They lost jobs, housing opportunities. But I had fought back, and because I fought back, the pattern was finally exposed. Derek Vance was fired from the Philadelphia PD, but that wasn't enough. The DA filed criminal charges, official misconduct, evidence tampering, deprivation of rights under color of law. The criminal trial lasted 2 weeks. The security footage was played in court. The jury saw everything. Vance's attorney tried to argue that Vance had found the baggie on the floor and was trying to determine if it belonged to me, but the video clearly showed Vance pulling it from his own pocket. The jury deliberated for 90 minutes. Guilty on all counts. The judge sentenced Vance to 6 years in prison. In his statement at sentencing, the judge said that police officers who plant evidence betray the trust of every citizen and deserve the harshest punishment the law allows. But the civil case was even bigger. My lawsuit went to trial 9 months after the incident. The city tried to settle before trial, offering $300,000. Alicia and I refused. We wanted accountability. We wanted a jury to see what happened. The trial lasted 11 days. Alicia presented the security footage. She presented Vance's history. She presented the 23 other people who claimed Vance had targeted them. She presented expert testimony about the psychological impact of false arrest on innocent people. The city's attorneys argued that Vance was a rogue officer, that the department couldn't be held responsible for one bad cop, that they had policies against this behavior. Alicia destroyed those arguments. She showed that Vance had 9 complaints dismissed without investigation. She showed that his supervisors had praised his arrest numbers without questioning why so many resulted in dropped charges. She showed that the department's accountability systems had failed repeatedly. The jury found in my favor on every count. They awarded me $1.5 million in damages. More importantly, they sent a message that false arrests and planted evidence would not be tolerated. Do you think $1.5 million was enough for what I went through? Let me know in the comments. I donated $500,000 to organizations that provide legal aid to people falsely accused of crimes. I kept the rest to secure my retirement and set up college funds for my nieces and nephews. But the real impact wasn't the money. It was what happened next. The Philadelphia PD implemented mandatory body cameras for all officers within 6 months. They created an early warning system to identify officers with patterns of dropped charges or dismissed cases. They established an independent review board to investigate complaints about evidence planting or false arrest. They also started a program where I came to the police academy to teach officers about constitutional rights from a citizen's perspective. I showed them the video of my own detention. I walked them through what I was thinking, what I was feeling, how I responded. I taught them that people who know their rights aren't criminals. They're educated citizens who deserve respect. I continued teaching at Liberty High School. I'm still there. My students call me the teacher who took down a dirty cop. I don't like the nickname, but I use the story in my classes. Every year when I teach the Fourth Amendment, I tell my students what happened to me. I show them the security footage. I walk them through my rights, Vance's violations, how the system worked, and how it failed. I always mention the moment I told the officer, "You're messing with the wrong person." My students laugh at that part, but then I get serious and explain that I didn't mean it as a threat. I meant it as a fact. The wrong person wasn't someone who would fight or run. The wrong person was someone who knew the law, stayed calm, and had evidence. That's what made me the wrong person to target. I tell them 3 things. Know your rights, stay calm, document everything. And I tell them one more thing. The system is supposed to protect you, but sometimes it doesn't. When that happens, you have to fight back. Not with violence, not with anger, but with knowledge, evidence, and persistence. Derek Vance served 4 years of his 6-year sentence before being released on parole. He's not allowed to work in law enforcement ever again. He lives in a different state now, working construction. He gave one interview after his release where he claimed he was just doing his job and that I had made it all seem worse than it was. He never apologized. He never admitted what he did was wrong. But it doesn't matter what Vance says. The video exists. The court records exist. The truth is documented. I still live in the same building, same apartment. Mr. Russo upgraded the security camera system after the incident. Now there are cameras in the lobby, the hallways, and near all the entrances. High definition with audio and cloud backup. The residents feel safer knowing they're protected. Not from criminals, from police who might try what Vance tried. Final question for you. Do you think all apartment buildings should be required to have security cameras? Type yes or no below. This story matters because it shows that false arrests happen. Evidence gets planted. Officers abuse their power. And most of the time, the victims don't have the resources or knowledge to fight back. I was lucky. I knew my rights. I stayed calm. I had evidence. I had a lawyer in the family. I had a community that supported me. Most people don't have those advantages. Most people take plea deals. Most people accept records they don't deserve. Most people never get justice. That's why my story is so important. Not just because I won, but because I exposed a pattern that had been going on for years. I saved other people from being victimized by the same officer. I forced the system to change. One security camera, one calm teacher, one viral video, 8 years of dirty arrests, exposed $1.5 million, awarded one cop in prison, one police department forced to reform, and hundreds of students taught that knowing your rights can save your life. That's the power of knowledge. That's the importance of documentation. That's what happens when someone refuses to accept injustice and fights back with evidence and persistence. Thanks for watching this story all the way to the end. If this taught you something or opened your eyes, make sure you're subscribed because I bring you more stories like this that need to be heard. Drop a comment about what you would have done if you were in my shoes and share this with someone who needs to know that security cameras protect you from more than just criminals. See you in the next one.